18 million Americans were watching. Studio lights blazing, cameras rolling, and then everything stopped. February 15th, 1973, Burbank, California. The Tonight Show was live. Johnny Carson sat behind his famous desk, relaxed, confident, untouchable. He was the king of late night, the most powerful man in television. Nobody surprised Johnny Carson, nobody. But that night, somebody did. His guest was Muhammad Ali, the most famous athlete on earth, three-time heavyweight champion, the man who had shaken the entire world with his fists and his words. Ali had been on the show before. He was always electric, always entertaining. But this night was different. Something was burning inside him, something Johnny didn't see coming. 22 minutes into the interview, Muhammad Ali did something no guest had ever done in the history of The Tonight Show. He stopped talking. He stopped joking. He stood up from the couch, and he walked straight toward Johnny Carson's desk. Ed McMahon froze. The producers in the control room started panicking. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't planned. This was live national television, and Muhammad Ali was going off the rails. Ali stopped right in front of Johnny, their eyes locked. The studio went dead silent. You could hear hearts pounding through the television screen. And then Ali spoke. 7 words. Just 7 words, but those 7 words hit Johnny Carson like a punch he never saw coming. 7 words that would haunt him for the rest of his life. What were those words? I'll tell you. But first, you need to understand something. What happened next wasn't a fight. It wasn't an argument. It was something far more dangerous. It was the truth. Raw, unfiltered, unstoppable truth spoken on live television in front of 18 million witnesses. And Johnny's response, it wasn't what anyone expected. Not the audience, not the executives, not even Ali himself. Because in that moment, Johnny Carson made a choice that would change both of their lives forever. A choice that proved sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop performing and start being human. But here's what nobody talks about. What really happened that night wasn't just about 2 famous men. It was about America. It was about all of us, and the lesson buried inside that conversation. It's something the world still needs to hear today. Let me know in the comments, where are you watching from right now? And if stories like this move you, hit that subscribe button. You're watching Celebrity Unseen. To understand what happened that night, you have to understand 1973. America was broken. The Vietnam War was tearing families apart. Watergate was exploding across every newspaper. Trust in government was collapsing, and the wounds of the civil rights movement were still fresh, still bleeding. Muhammad Ali stood right in the middle of all of it. Born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. in Louisville, Kentucky, January 17, 1942. Grew up in a segregated South where the color of your skin determined everything, where you could eat, where you could sit, what you could dream. But young Cassius had fire in his soul. Boxing became his weapon, his way out, his way up. By 22, he was heavyweight champion of the world. By 25, he had changed his name, embraced his faith, and made a decision that would cost him everything. When the United States government ordered him to fight in Vietnam, Ali refused. He said he had no quarrel with people who had never done anything to him. That sentence, that act of conscience, stripped him of his title, his boxing license, his prime years. They called him a traitor, a coward, things far worse. But Ali never broke. He stood tall when the whole country wanted him to kneel. By 1973, he was fighting his way back. The Supreme Court had overturned his conviction. He was boxing again, but the scars were deep, and Ali had something to say. Something that went far beyond sports. Now Johnny Carson, different world entirely. Born in Corning, Iowa, October 23, 1925. Raised in Nebraska, small-town Midwest boy who turned charm and timing into an empire. By 1973, Johnny had hosted The Tonight Show for 11 years. He was more than a talk show host. He was an American institution. A single appearance on Carson could make you a star. A bad appearance could end your career. But behind the smooth jokes and perfect timing, Johnny was complicated, private, thoughtful. He'd grown up in a white world, insulated from the struggles that defined Ali's existence. He'd watched the civil rights movement on television, like most white Americans, from a safe distance. When Ali was booked for February 15th, Johnny's producers gave him a warning. "He's in a mood," they said. "Might go off script." Johnny just smiled. He'd handled difficult guests before. He'd handled controversy, scandals, surprises. He believed he was ready for anything. He was wrong, because Muhammad Ali didn't walk into that studio to promote a fight. He didn't come to entertain America, he came to confront it. And Johnny Carson, the king of late night, was about to find himself face to face with a truth he'd spent his whole career avoiding. What Ali said that night would force Johnny to make an impossible choice: protect his image or open his heart. The energy inside Studio One was electric that February night. The audience buzzed with anticipation. Everyone knew Ali was coming. Everyone expected fireworks, but nobody expected what actually happened. When Muhammad Ali walked out, the applause was thunderous. He moved like a dancer, graceful yet powerful, smiled that famous smile, shook Johnny's hand, sat down on the couch. The interview began. For the first 20 minutes, everything seemed normal. Ali was brilliant, quick, funny, magnetic. He talked about his upcoming rematch with Joe Frazier. He recited poetry, predicted victory in the 6th round. The audience ate it up. Johnny played along perfectly, feeding him setups, laughing at his jokes. This was the Ali everyone wanted to see: safe, entertaining, predictable. But Johnny noticed something. Behind the bravado, Ali's eyes were different, darker, focused, like a storm gathering strength before it breaks. At the 22-minute mark, Johnny asked a simple question. Something about legacy. How did Ali want to be remembered? Standard late-night conversation. Easy, safe. Ali paused. The studio went quiet, and then Muhammad Ali stood up. The audience froze. Johnny's smile flickered. Ed McMahon gripped his chair. In the control room, producers started shouting. What was happening? This wasn't scripted. This wasn't part of the show. Ali walked toward Johnny's desk slowly, deliberately. Each step echoed through the silent studio. He stopped directly in front of Johnny Carson and looked down at him. Not with anger, not with hostility, with something deeper, something heavier. The cameras kept rolling. They had to. This was live television. 18 million people were watching a moment nobody could control. Ali leaned forward. His voice dropped low, but every microphone caught it. "Johnny," he said, "do you know what I really am?" Johnny didn't answer, couldn't answer. The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. "I'm a black man in America," Ali said. "The most famous athlete in the world. And half your audience still looks at me and sees something less than human. I need you to understand that, Johnny. I need America to understand that, because until you do, nothing changes." Silence. Complete, devastating silence. The control room exploded. Executives were panicking. You couldn't talk about race like this on late-night television. This was supposed to be entertainment escapism. Johnny was supposed to cut to commercial, change the subject, deflect. That's what television hosts did. But Johnny didn't move. He sat there looking up at Muhammad Ali, the most polarizing man in America. And something shifted in his face. The performance disappeared. The television mask fell away, and for the first time in his 11-year career, Johnny Carson didn't know what to say. 18 million Americans held their breath. Then Johnny did something that shocked everyone. The audience, the producers, the executives, even Ali himself. He put down his pencil, pushed his notes aside, and spoke 4 words that would change everything. "Help me understand, Muhammad." Not defensive, not dismissive. An invitation. Ali studied Johnny's face for a long moment, looking for the trick, the television deflection. He didn't find it. What he found was something rare, something real. And what happened next? It became the most important conversation in late-night television history. Muhammad Ali stood frozen. In all his years of fighting in the ring, in the courtroom, in the court of public opinion, he had never heard those words from someone like Johnny Carson. Help me understand. It wasn't a challenge. It was a surrender, an open hand instead of a closed fist. Slowly, Ali did something unprecedented. He walked around Johnny's desk, territory no guest had ever entered, and pulled up a chair. Not on the couch where guests belonged, right next to Johnny, side by side, equal. The camera scrambled to adjust. The audience didn't breathe. This wasn't an interview anymore. This was something television had never seen. "Johnny," Ali said quietly, "you're a good man. I've watched you for years. You treat people with respect. But you and me, we live in different Americas." Johnny nodded slowly. "Then tell me about your America, Muhammad." And Ali did something rare. He dropped the showmanship. No poetry, no predictions, no performance. He talked about Louisville in the 1940s. About being a little boy who couldn't understand why some doors were closed to him. About winning an Olympic gold medal for his country in 1960. Standing on that podium with tears in his eyes, proud to be American. Then coming home and being refused service at a restaurant in his own hometown. A gold medal around his neck, and he still couldn't get a hamburger. "I threw that medal in the river, Johnny," Ali said, his voice thick with old pain. "I stood on a bridge in Louisville and threw it into the water, because I realized something that day. That medal didn't make me American enough. Nothing would." Johnny was silent. The audience was silent. America was silent. Ali continued. He talked about the death threats, the constant exhaustion of being hated for the color of his skin, the weight of representing an entire people every time he stepped into the ring. "I've fought George Foreman, Joe Frazier, the United States government, but the hardest fight of my life is walking through this country as a black man and having to prove every single day that I deserve to be treated like a human being." Johnny's eyes glistened when he spoke. His voice was different, softer, stripped of performance. "Muhammad, I grew up in Nebraska, small town, all white. I didn't know any black folks until I joined the Navy, and I'll be honest with you." Johnny paused, struggling with the words. "I thought I understood. I watched the marches. I watched Dr. King. I thought because I wasn't one of the people with the hoses and the dogs, I was one of the good ones. But I never asked what it felt like. I never really listened." Ali looked at Johnny with something that might have been surprise. "That's all we've ever wanted, Johnny. Not for you to save us, not for you to fix everything. Just to listen. To see us as human beings." "I see you," Johnny said quietly. "I see you, Muhammad." Then Johnny Carson did something unprecedented. On live television in front of 18 million Americans, he apologized. "I'm sorry," Johnny said. "Not for something I did, but for something I didn't do. For all the times I could have used this platform to make a difference and stayed silent instead. For all the people like me who watched from the sidelines while you fought alone." Muhammad Ali, the man who always had words, always had a comeback, always had fire ready, sat in silence. Tears rolled down his face. Tears. He didn't try to hide. Johnny Ali finally said, "That's the first time someone with your power has ever said that to me, and I want you to know something. I forgive you. I forgive all of you because I learned a long time ago, hate is too heavy. I refuse to carry it anymore." The camera panned across the audience. People were weeping. Not just black audience members, everyone, because they were witnessing something sacred. Two men from different worlds, choosing to truly see each other. Ali extended his hand. Johnny took it, and they held on. Not for the cameras, not for the audience, but for themselves. That handshake lasted 7 seconds, but it echoed for decades. When they finally cut to commercial, the studio remained silent. Nobody clapped, nobody moved. They all understood. They had just witnessed history. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling? That's where the real miracle began. When the cameras cut away, Johnny didn't retreat to his dressing room. He stayed on stage next to Ali. They talked for another 20 minutes while the crew stood in stunned silence. No microphones, no audience. Just two men who had stumbled onto something neither expected. Genuine connection. After the taping wrapped, Johnny did something unusual. He invited Ali to dinner. Not a publicity appearance. A private meal. They went to a small Italian restaurant in Burbank that Johnny loved. Sat in a back booth for 3 hours talking about everything. Childhood, family, fear, faith, what it means to carry the weight of millions of expectations. That night changed my life. Johnny said years later. Muhammad didn't attack me, he invited me in, and I realized I'd spent decades entertaining America without ever really challenging it. The next morning, NBC's switchboard was overwhelmed. Thousands of calls flooded in. Some were angry. How dare Carson give Ali a platform for that message? But the majority were different. People were moved, shaken, grateful. They'd never seen anything like it. Sponsors called too. A few threatened to pull their ads, but more surprising were the ones who doubled their commitment. "We want to be associated with that kind of courage," one executive said. "That's the future of television." In the weeks that followed, Johnny kept the promise he made on that stage. He started booking guests who challenged audiences, activists, writers, thinkers, voices that mainstream television usually ignored. He used his monologue to address uncomfortable truths carefully, respectfully, but honestly. His ratings didn't drop, they climbed. For Muhammad Ali, that night became a cornerstone of his legacy beyond boxing. He spoke about it in interviews for decades. "Johnny Carson was the first person with that kind of power who looked at me and didn't see a boxer. Didn't see a problem. Saw a human being. And when he apologized, not because I demanded it, but because he meant it, something healed in me that I didn't even know was broken." Their friendship surprised everyone. They weren't close in the traditional sense. Their worlds were too different for regular dinners and phone calls. But there was a bond forged that February night that never broke. Johnny attended Ali's fight against Joe Frazier later that year, sat ringside. When Ali won, Johnny was on his feet cheering. Ali spotted him in the crowd and pointed a silent acknowledgement of their connection. Years later, Ali sent Johnny a gift for his 60th birthday. A boxing glove signed with a message to Johnny, "The only man who ever knocked me down without throwing a punch. Your friend Muhammad." Johnny kept that glove on his desk until the day he died. But perhaps the most powerful moment came from something the public never saw. A letter Ali wrote to Johnny in 1985, 12 years after their Tonight Show conversation. "Johnny," the letter read, "that night you didn't just interview me. You stood with me in front of your sponsors, your network, your audience. You chose to see me. Not many people have that courage. I will never forget it, and neither will history." Johnny never showed that letter to anyone while he was alive. It was found in his desk after his death, worn from being read hundreds of times. What those two men built that night wasn't just a friendship. It was proof that walls can come down when someone is brave enough to say 4 words. Help me understand. Atlanta, Georgia, July 19, 1996. The Summer Olympics opening ceremony. 3 billion people watching worldwide. And there, holding the Olympic torch with trembling hands, stood Muhammad Ali. Parkinson's disease had stolen his speed. His voice was nearly gone. But when the camera found his face, the world saw the same fire that had burned on Johnny Carson's stage 23 years earlier. The same defiance, the same dignity. He lit that torch, and the world wept. In the flood of tributes that followed, countless articles mentioned the Carson interview, the night America first truly saw Muhammad Ali. Not the boxer, not the showman, the man. Johnny Carson retired from The Tonight Show in May 1992, after 30 years. In his final monologue, he thanked his guests, his crew, his audience, but in private conversations, when asked about his proudest moment, he always returned to that February night in 1973. "Thousands of hours of television," Johnny once said in a rare interview, "thousands of guests. But that conversation with Muhammad, that was the one. That was when I understood what this platform could really do, if you had the courage to use it." As Ali's health declined through the 1990s and 2000s, his impact only grew. He traveled the world, spreading messages of peace, understanding, compassion. He visited hospitals, prisons, war zones. Everywhere he went, the message was the same. See each other. Really see each other. Johnny and Ali met for the final time in 2002. Ali's speech was impaired, his movement limited by disease. But when he saw Johnny, his eyes lit up with recognition. According to those present, Ali took Johnny's hand and held it for a long moment. No words were needed. Everything had already been said. Johnny Carson passed away on January 23, 2005. He was 79 years old. Following his wishes, the funeral was private. No Hollywood spectacle, no television cameras. But Muhammad Ali sent a video message that was played for the small gathering. "Johnny Carson was my brother," Ali said, his voice weak but steady. He listened when the world was shouting. He opened his heart when it was easier to stay closed. "I'll see you again, my friend. Save me a seat." Muhammad Ali died on June 3, 2016. He was 74. His memorial service in Louisville drew tens of thousands. World leaders, celebrities, ordinary people, all gathered to honor the champion. And in speech after speech, that Tonight Show moment was mentioned. The night the greatest fighter in the world put down his gloves. The night the king of late night put down his defenses. The night two American icons proved that conversation can be more powerful than combat. But here's what most people still don't understand about February 15th, 1973. The real lesson wasn't about fame or race or television. It was about something simpler and infinitely harder. Here's what people miss about that night. It wasn't special because a famous boxer talked to a famous host. Celebrities have conversations every day. It wasn't special because they discuss difficult topics. People argue about race constantly and nothing changes. It was special because of a choice. Muhammad Ali chose to stop performing and start being real. He chose vulnerability over victory. And Johnny Carson chose to stop protecting his image and start listening. He chose curiosity over comfort. On live television, in front of millions, with everything to lose. That's the lesson. That's what matters. Every single day we face the same choice. We meet people different from us, different backgrounds, different experiences, different worlds, and we decide. Do we protect ourselves, or do we lean in? Do we defend our assumptions, or do we ask the harder question? Help me understand. Muhammad Ali taught Johnny Carson that being seen is one of the deepest human needs. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't require fame or power. It just requires presence, attention, the willingness to truly look at another person and acknowledge you matter. Johnny Carson taught Muhammad Ali that people can change, that forgiveness opens doors, anger never will, that sometimes the person you expect to fight becomes the person who stands with you. Together, they reminded us what courage really looks like. It's not throwing punches, it's lowering defenses. It's not winning arguments, it's building bridges. In the end, we're all searching for the same thing: to be heard, to be valued, to be seen. And sometimes all it takes is one person brave enough to say, "Help me understand." Muhammad Ali, Johnny Carson, two men from different worlds, one conversation that changed everything. That's the power of truly seeing someone. And if this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to Celebrity Unseen. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and share a moment when someone truly saw you. Because stories like this, they don't just live in history. They remind us how to be human. Until next time, this is Celebrity Unseen. Stay curious, stay kind, and never stop looking for the unseen.